So, Nick, Sean Strickland's jab got the job done again last night. He looked very impressive against Jack the Joker Hermansson, stuffed all 8 of Jack's takedowns. A good performance, not a great one. I'm not sure if this is going to get him to a position where he can jump the winner of Brunson versus Cannonier, but a decent performance nonetheless.
Yeah, and he proved he's got some of the best hands and some of the best boxing in the middleweight division for sure. The thing that ruined this fight for Jack Hermansson is that he tried to go out there in a boxing style, sort of kickboxing at time style range with a guy who's just way better than him at that.
Yeah.
It seemed to me Jack was getting frustrated as he was starting to lose rounds, and he realized he was losing those rounds, which, by the way, some judge had it for Hermansson, and that was just bizarre, but we'll get to that
strange,
later. Yeah. But Strickland, he's got great boxing. He was landing first and landing last in pretty much every exchange that they were having. Looked really good standing there, stayed super composed the entire time. It definitely frustrated Hermansson the entire fight. I wanted to see a little bit more tenacity on maybe not the takedown attempts, but the exchanges in which he was trying to get the fight to the ground. Hermansson kind of just showed what they say is is it Frankenstein?
Yeah,
or walking like a
Frankensteined
zombie.
him, yeah.
Towards the legs, and you can kind of see it coming from a mile away. Strickland saw it, defended it very well. It was pretty much just a masterclass of boxing and MMA.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I mean, Sean Strickland is super comfortable in that boxing range. We even talked in the predictions video leading up to this about how he actually stands in the Philly shell boxing stance, which is very rare to see in MMA, because in boxing, you can only get hit with a jab, a cross, a hook, and an uppercut. Those are the shots, and everything has to be above the waist. So there's really not a variety of things that you can be hit with. There's all sorts of creative ways you can put those things together, but that allows for a stance like the Philly shell, which is, for those of you that don't know, the front hand kind of down, exposing the side of your face, to be more usable in boxing. In MMA, you almost never see that. You almost never see somebody standing in boxing range in that position and still not getting hit. I mean, if they were to be in that position, they would be getting chewed up. But Sean seems to do it well. He's one of the few that does it. He was right there in Hermansson's face, worked behind a beautiful jab. I thought he landed some good body hooks. He was working a double jab to the face to get Hermansson's hands up, and then some really good kind of longer body hooks. But Hermansson, his problem was he wasn't able to chain his takedowns together. You mentioned the Frankenstein arms. He's reaching for the takedowns. And if you're reaching your arms out too long to grab a leg and get a takedown, you haven't covered enough distance to really get a takedown. And so that's where he ran into trouble. When you think about great MMA fighters who are able to get takedowns, George St. Pierre, Khabib, Hamzat, people like that, they string multiple takedowns together. They almost never get you down on the first attempt. They'll back you up to the cage. They'll throw something in your face. They'll shoot in on a double leg. As soon as that's defended, they'll go to the single. If you defend the single, they're behind you now with a body lock. That's kind of what guys who are really incredible at high percentage takedowns will do to you. Jack has got really good submissions. We've seen him win via heel hook. We've seen him win via arm bar. He's got a wide variety of submissions, but it seems to me like he's having trouble getting the takedown to set up his jiu-jitsu game against really elite opponents.
Yeah, and even the best wrestlers have to string it together, because they'll tell you they can't score generally off of just one single shot attempt. Sean Strickland really did move in a way that felt to me like it was a sparring match.
Yeah.
The pace he was going at was very much like a friendly sparring match, and obviously he was landing really big shots, and they were definitely hurting Hermansson, but he was just moving at that pace of a guy who's trained so many hours in the gym, and obviously he does a lot of hard sparring. That's constantly what he's in the news for, is really hard rounds, really tough rounds with guys that outweigh him by 200 pounds, and Francis Ngannou and people like that. So he's used to being in there with just monsters, and he knows how to deal with that, and he really knows he's so comfortable in a fight. He's so comfortable in that sort of style and that pace. It shows. You can see the hours he's put in. And I think that We have a character on our hands.
Yeah.
I don't know really how he would fare against Izzy. I think he'd probably do decently well just because he's so tough and he does have some pretty good hands and some striking. I think he's somebody that the UFC could market. He's the everyday guy. He's kind of like how, some people look at certain fighters like they looked at, they look like Tai Tuivasa and Derek Lewis, who ironically are fighting each other, but they look at them as sort of like they're just everyday guys, right? Like they don't really seem like these elite level athletes, but they are.
Yeah.
And Sean Strickland just seems like an everyday guy. Like you would likely see him at a bar and,
probably fighting somebody there.
And I think he'd be even admit to it because the post-fight speech was also, it was kind of a banger in itself. I think he definitely was harsh on himself, which he shouldn't have been because he put on a masterclass and really looked good. I thought he won 4 out of 5 for sure, maybe 5 rounds. I would give Jack 1 just for the tenacity and the way he was trying to fight early in the fight. But Sean Strickland definitely put on an epic performance and got the win, got his hand raised. It wasn't enough to get a title fight next, but I think he's going to be in a big fight next. And the way he's able to handle the post-fight speeches and whatnot, there's something special there.
Yeah, and the self-deprecation is a bit funny. And I really like how he, was critical of his performance, even though it wasn't necessarily a performance to be critical of. Like I said, it was a good performance, not a great performance. If you want to get title shots, you got to finish people like Jack the Joker Hermansson, and he wasn't able to do that. Called himself a pansy in the post-fight interview. I don't think I'd go as far as to say that. And then thanked the fans because he said that he would be a POS if it weren't for the fans, and now he's a rich POS. Yeah. I thought that was funny. I thought that was clever. Sean Strickland's going to be one of those guys that either you really like him or you hate him because he has that kind of polarizing. He's not quite to the Colby Covington level of, man, I just really hate that guy, but he certainly can invoke an emotion in people, and he's doing things like calling out Jake Paul and sparring Francis Ngannou and getting into heated gym wars with Orlando Sanchez, who's almost 400 freaking pounds. So it's like he certainly, there's a character there, and the thing I like about it is it's uniquely his character. He's not trying to fit the mold of a Conor. He's not trying to fit the mold of an Izzy. He's not trying to be Sean O'Malley. He's doing Sean Strickland, and I can respect that. And as far as the judging goes, I guess that's the last thing we can touch on before we wrap. Who the hell was the judge that scored that for Jack Hermansson, and what did they see?
Yeah, how did they have 3 rounds for Hermansson and 2 for Strickland?
Oh, my God.
I mean, I can see how you would give him maybe the first round or the second round.
Yeah.
Anything after that, I mean, he was just getting pieced up and couldn't hardly land anything, and it was largely a boxing match, and his boxing was just levels behind Sean Strickland. Sean looked as crisp as ever, even in the 5th round. And the one cool thing that I will say about the end of the fight, and there's only a couple of people on the UFC's roster, or really on this planet, that would do this, and I would put Max Holloway in it, and now Sean Strickland, be winning a fight at least 4 rounds to none, and in the 5th round with 20 seconds left, tell your opponent to stand in the middle on the Monster M logo and stand and trade and throw punch for punch. The way that Sean Strickland was easily coasting to a victory and then decided to do that at the end shows just how tough and crazy he is. There's something crazy there. He's a cage fighter at heart. You're not going to take that guy out of that character because that character is who Sean Strickland is. I can't wait to see what he does next. I think Derek Brunson versus Cannonier is kind of the number 1 contenders match for next weekend, and to see what happens at middleweight. But there's going to be a fun fight for Sean Strickland next, and I hope it's soon.
Me too. And the language that he was using that went uncensored on ESPN Plus, I thought he was talking to Jack. I thought he was basically saying that to Jack. It became very clear to me in the post-fight interview that he was saying that to himself.
Yeah.
He was calling himself all of those names because he wasn't happy with his performance. Yeah. So he's like, I guess I'll have 15 seconds of redemption in the Monster M in the last 15 seconds of the fight. Like you said, the judging was ridiculous. I mean, 1 round for Hermansson. That was a 49-46 fight. If you want to call it 48-47, maybe there's an argument for it. 48-47 the other way for Jack. Totally ridiculous. So some bad scorecards, but nonetheless a great fight.
Yep.
Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Drop us a comment and let us know, was this enough for Strickland to get that title fight next? We always love hearing from you, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.